You've tuned in to Powerhouse On Purpose podcast, your go-to space for inspiration, empowerment, and practical strategies to unlock your potential and step boldly into your purpose. Hi, welcome to Powerhouse On Purpose podcast. And we have with us Miss Catherine Roe, who's going to talk to us about finance and different things with her company that she is starting. She's a CPA. And so, of course, finance being one of my particular loves at heart, I am so excited to have this conversation. So, Catherine, if you would, just introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. So, I am a CPA, and I know it doesn't sound like the most fun thing in the world, but I believe that you can make fun out of almost anything. And if you enjoy your work and your work is, primarily you have a purpose for it, then anything can be satisfying and fun. So I primarily work with service-based small businesses, and I enjoy helping people understand their businesses better, understand their finances, and then of course we take care of all of that on the back end for a lot of our clients.
Awesome. So your personal journey is just as important as your professional one, right? And so what would you say inspired you to pursue accounting and what led you to start your own firm?
So accounting was something I never knew anything about. And that's a totally different problem in the industry where in high school, a lot of folks don't even know what accounting is. And I didn't find out until I was taking accounting in college as a part of business classes and decided, you know what, this is pretty cool. I had this idea I was going to be a lawyer. Lawyers are great. I have plenty of friends that are lawyers, but I didn't need to be a lawyer. And I found something different just in the process of going through the motions and kind of landed in that, and that kind of worked for me. And speaking of having my own firm, that's not a phrase that I ever thought that I would ever say. I think I'm like a lot of other entrepreneurs where something just kind of fell into place or kind of fell into your lap, and then it's like, oh wow, here's a thing. And it's just been a crazy journey. It's just a constant process of seeing, where am I at? Where am I going? What is the plan for me? And trying to adjust to make sure that I am doing the best I can for what I should be doing.
I love it. I love that you encountered something that you thought worked better for you and decided to pursue it, even though it wasn't necessarily something that was ingrained firsthand. As you said that, I'm thinking to myself, did we ever talk about accounting in high school? And I don't remember it either. My sister actually is an accountant as far as her degree. My husband has an accounting degree as well, but I don't think it was popular for us either. I just knew that I worked best with numbers. And so I'm also an entrepreneur, and starting your own business is no small feat. So what would you say has been the biggest challenge to starting your own business?
For me, a lot of it was mindset. I got stuck in this really ultra conservative mindset where I didn't want to take much risk, and I didn't want to make the jump and just go all out on my own until I felt I was ready enough. And I made the mistake of working too long in my full-time job too, to the point where I realized one day I'm working 2 jobs and I'm pregnant, and the doctor is saying you can't work 80 hours a week. And that was kind of a realization for me, and I made a decision, a cutoff date. When I have my daughter, that's it. I'm only going to focus on one thing, and that's just going to be how it goes.
Kudos to you. It can be a little tough, especially as women, but also as business women. It can be hard to choose yourself because typically in business, we have so much stuff on our plate. We're asked to do so much. And as good, employees, as good people, as good-hearted persons, but also women being nurturing and just caring about things, we'll want to meet those goals and we'll want to ascend to those expectations. And so kudos to you for deciding that this is what I'm going to do for your health and for your, for your daughter and for your family.
And that's the most important thing too. Sometimes it's just a matter of taking a little bit of time to step back and sit and think, what are the most important things, without considering anything else. If I were to write down what's the most important things, it's taking care of my daughter, making sure that I'm sleeping.
Right.
I mean, that's a big thing. You think, maybe I shouldn't have to tell myself that. Making sure that, your spiritual life is healthy, that you haven't gotten caught up too much in everything else to lose sight of what is our purpose in life. And then take a look at, based on what you're doing right now, what does that show the most important things to you are? And do they match? And if they don't, trying to bring that back to square one. And it's tough because it's always a process. There's no fix it and you're good and you're the best entrepreneur forever, or, there's a formula. It's just constant self-evaluation and having the courage to do that with yourself.
I wholeheartedly agree. I recently left my corporate position back in October. Full time at home. I have teenagers, so I don't have any little ones, but I do have this process that I'm doing right now, just being home more, trying to figure out this new business lifestyle that I have, and also wanting to make sure my purpose is being fulfilled. And I do believe through the podcast, I fulfill that. Talking to other women, learning about their lives, their experiences, things that they've done, and even allowing them to attribute to other women's lives with the type of information that you're giving today. So as a woman in finance, I would say I have faced some unique challenges, some things that I didn't perceive I would have to encounter. And some of them were because I am a female, because I am a woman. And so have you had those things happen in your career? And if you did, how did you navigate them?
I would say a lot of times, especially in financial industry, which is a historically male dominated, especially in the higher level management realm, it's a lot tougher to learn and develop those skills to assert yourself, stand up for yourself, and make sure that you are protected, and the only person who's really going to do that best is you. And it's tough because, especially early on in a career, you might think that you automatically have to defer to someone in a certain area. You may not feel like you can explain yourself in certain situations, and it doesn't help anyone all around. I found that in the business side of things, since leaving corporate, I have to really be more assertive and stronger with boundaries. People, it seems, tend to want to expect you to be a pushover and kind of give in to stuff, especially some men. I'm not going to say all men. I've got some really great clients that are men. Some of the other great people that are men,
Right.
in my life. But when it comes to those tough situations, that's kind of what I've seen. And I think that it's taken this long to really get to a place where I can be more assertive. And I'm still learning every day, because it's a struggle. And I think it's kind of ingrained in us too, to want to have that step back. But when you are the expert of your field and you're in a consulting position where you are selling your knowledge and skill, you have to maintain that. You can't stay in that traditional mindset of just deferring, because then you're not going to really help anybody, yourself or the client. Absolutely.
Yes, I think being in a male dominated field as well. I was in finance originally, but I was moved to community development, particularly in the last recent years. And even though I'm in there, handling federal grants and getting projects done, typically when it comes down to the work that has to be done to get there, to meet those goals, you're going to encounter a lot of male dominated areas. Construction, even with the people who want to ask for grants. Typically, I had a lot of males that I dealt with in that arena, and it can be intimidating in some areas. It can also be
Yeah.
belittling in some areas, assuming that I have no idea what I'm talking about when I talk about certain things because I'm not supposed to know, right? But I do believe as girls, even, in our childhood, we're nurtured in that way. We're told to care, and little girls do this and little girls do that. And so having to be an adult female and get into dominated areas of male leadership, it can be tough. But what I've learned about us is how resilient we are. I think my
Oh, yeah.
resilience definitely was heightened through the birth of my son. I think I was 22 at the time, but I remember being a mom just made me so much more resilient. there was nothing and even now there's nothing I tell myself I can't do until I try. I have to at least try it, right? And so let's talk about entrepreneurship because that's a new thing I'm trying, right? I'm trying this 24/7 entrepreneurship journey, and I want to make sure that it doesn't take a toll on my personal life, right? So entrepreneurship right now is taking all of my time. And so have you seen anything particularly in becoming a full-time entrepreneur that has affected your personal life, or have you really been intentional about your work-life balance?
Well, for me, and of course, I'm always going to say everything is a learning process. I definitely had a whole lot of struggles early on with this, and that's what led to my book that's coming out in March, No More 24/7. That's what I was doing. Nonstop work all the time. And the only person who's going to stop you from doing that is you. And that's the tough thing, because when you constantly feel like you're serving other people, you need to give your everything and push everything into something, you're going to burn out, you're going to crash, and you're not going to end up meeting all those goals, and you're going to serve, unrefined, product at the end of the day. And the key is, setting those boundaries, setting those limitations that will help you make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Because if you put your everything out there and just say, I'm giving my all, eventually you run out of you. You have to be able to recharge to get more of yourself to be able to serve other people and make sure that you're not getting locked away where you're working all the time, and you don't get to, go to your kids' extracurricular activities and, be a part of that. Every stage of childhood has different unique things, and, you don't want to miss out on any of it, whether it's, they're little tiny babies or whether they're teenagers going from this thing to that thing after school, you name it. And so I've found that the best thing is to set the limits and not be embarrassed of what that means. If it means you're blocking out your calendar intentionally to make sure you don't miss that game, that, sports event, whatever it is, there is no shame in that. You're doing the best thing to make sure no one else books a meeting then. Mm-hmm. And then you make sure that way. That's just one little thing that usually tends to work with most folks. The problem is, it's a lot of trial and error because everyone's different.
I agree. I think my schedule went from being very calculated and strategic and set up and organized to being available for some people. And I had to start kind of reminding people, hey, it's not that I'm just at home not doing anything. It's that I've switched how I'm working, but I still work. And so then also developing my calendar, even my podcast calendar. And so definitely having that mindset to prioritize both things. Because I also have days where I'm like, hey, I worked that day, not doing anything family. We talked about how we've personally encountered some things that may have hindered our experience in corporate America, but what is a personal lesson that possibly has allowed you to make some positive decisions in how you run your business?
One particular thing that comes to mind, the very first job that I ever had, my first official job, it was, still an internship. It was at a local firm that honestly was the best place to work. It was a place where I learned the most and discovered my passion for working with small businesses. And it's so amazing how it's come full circle where their smaller clients, because they're a pretty big firm, their smaller clients, they actually refer a lot of them out to us. And it's just a really sweet relationship, and I'm really grateful for that. So not all of the corporate is bad. Sometimes there's a place for a certain atmosphere, and sometimes there's not. I'm sure there have been some other, toxic environments between then and now, but that definitely was not one of them. That was probably a big reason why I stayed. I think a lot of people get a bad experience up front and they just tap out, especially in the accounting world.
I can see that. I think any line of work is going to take some intentionality and some dedication. I don't think there's any workplace, and I've worked several different fields and I've done several different things. My ex-husband was military, so when I moved, I tried some other stuff. I worked reception at a warehouse. I was in a open forum room where we answered phones all day. I prepared taxes for 12 years. And so all these different spaces that I've worked, I was receptionist at a methadone clinic at one time. I did that for a year. And so I've experienced a lot of different work spaces, and they all have their things that I may not have liked or that I would have changed. But I don't think there's any perfect place to work because you're going to encounter different people.
Absolutely.
Business atmospheres change with who's in charge and all those things happen. And so I just want to really touch on the woman behind the business a little bit. So now we're going to move into the
Okay.
businesswoman and sort of your finance expert side, right? So what I've learned and something that I'm passionate about is financial literacy.
Yeah.
In my former position, I did encounter a lot of nonprofit owners who were very small, wanting to start out, or even small business. During COVID, a lot of grants were given to businesses to make sure that they could sustain through, the pandemic. And so what I learned about them, though, is a lot of them weren't exactly financial literate. Giving them, a $20,000 grant oftentimes would kind of show up short of expose their financial management skills in a way. And so is there any common financial mistakes that you could kind of speak to that you think small businesses kind of make in their beginnings?
One thing that I have actually been researching lately and trying to work to solve is this problem where, yeah, small business owners or even just the solopreneurs don't know anything. And it's natural because, unless you went to school, for business, you're not going to, automatically have that information, especially not, how to do accounting.
Mhm.
Small business owners shouldn't have to be doing those things, but they should understand them. They need to be informed of the different processes. What type of entity should I have? What are the implications of this? And when given their financials, they need to be able to understand them and make decisions based off them. Not be an accountant, but be able to use them. So what I've found is, especially, I've gone back and looked through a lot of my notes from onboarding clients for the past year or two. I actually did this last week, and the common theme that I'm seeing is that a lot of small business owners recognize they don't know what they're doing, they want help, and they're not getting it elsewhere.
Mhm.
And a lot of them have tried other financial professionals and they're not getting it there, because there is a very clear difference between being financially savvy and being a good accountant and being an educator. And some people have both, but the majority of accountants, they seem to just want to get the work done, give it to the client, there you go. And they're left, wanting more, not knowing what to do, signing tax returns without, fully understanding them because no one educated them. So I'm actually working on putting together a program where it's looking like it's going to be primarily like there's going to be a self-study element, probably a group community element, as well as some one-on-one consulting, because don't want anything to be standalone, but the standalone part is the base. And it takes the fresh contractor or solopreneur through the process of, these are different entity types available. This is what an estimated tax payment is and why they want you to make them. It's not just some random slip of paper shoved in with the rest of your tax return, because a lot of people don't know all that stuff, and it's a whole process with that package to help these small businesses understand better, how they can do better and grow.
That's good. That's actually along the lines of something I'm developing as well. It's for the individual, but it is a financial literacy program, and it is standalone currently, but it walks them through just understanding some of the intricate details of, having an account. And I kind of geared mine a little bit more towards high school, teenage years so that they'll have sort of a good start, or at least a jump start to move into college, but anyone could learn from it. Being that I financially come from, I actually started as an account clerk with a governmental agency, and I moved into revenue compliance. And so I learned a lot about business licenses and just different legality on that side of what's required of you to have a business. And so this is probably the side of it that I wasn't as fully, trained on. the accounting side, the back side. Of course, like I said, I prepared taxes, but I like finance. I like seeing how money affects lifestyle and all that. I like to see the bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
Accounting to me is sort of like the backside once I've spent the money, right? Would you agree with that, or can you tell me something
So
about the difference in them?
there's two sides of things. There's historical data where you're just getting everything in there. And that's one thing. That's step one. That's the bare minimum. You got to have financial statements to file a tax return. That's usually the push that a lot of small businesses have to even do it, or they'd never do it. A lot of them. But that's not where things stop. That is actually the beginning. And I don't think of it so much as differences as different stages. That's step one. Have your historical data, have it right, have it existing, and then you can use that to say, hey, what do things look like? What does the trend look like for the future? What if I change XYZ? Then that's, getting into forecasting. And then you can take it even further and set budgets and plan for growth. So a lot of people get stuck just with the necessity and wanting to do the bare minimum, not realizing that there's this additional element, the analysis and the use of the information. And that's where I find a lot of people are lacking.
Okay, so application is an issue. Even if I
Yeah.
have the information, I may not actually do it. So that's a good perspective. What are the top 3 financial habits that you think an entrepreneur should have?
Making sure that they regularly have financial statements that have been prepared by a professional, and then having set times to review and evaluate how things are going, whether it's the financial element or the rest of the business. And then not being afraid to communicate and ask your professional for help when you need it or questions, because if you have a CPA or other finance professional on your team working with you, you should be able to have that kind of communication, ask questions, work with them, and be growth focused.
Okay. Has your perspective on money or business or even the success of it evolved in any way since you started your own business?
I have found that, especially in the process of, not shifting gears, but adding on, this work, developing, these courses, the No More 24/7 and, the solopreneur stuff, that, that's additional, it's not additional businesses, but it kind of is. It's additional elements, and that taking the risk of taking on the additional expense to kind of work and, produce these things, it is worth it and it's necessary. Being ultra conservative and too risk adverse is not always beneficial. There's got to be a good balance. And I think I'm starting to get a little bit more comfortable with that, because there's expenses that go into making a book.
Absolutely.
Writing, it's the easy part.
Yes, I agree. I published my first book back in, I did it for my birthday, so it was November 1st. It was around that time. But I left my job October. And so I gave myself those 30 days. I had already written the book, but I was like, I want it published and finished for my birthday. That's my gift to myself. And yeah, expenses.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then even to, promote it and want people to really buy it and, find purpose in it, because my book is Path to Purpose. It's a spiritual guide to purpose and self-discovery. And so wanting to be impactful enough to where people know about the book takes even more expenses, marketing yourself and different things. And so I definitely agree with that. Let's jump into the book. Every time you say No More 24/7, I get a little giddy inside. So give us some of the tips or points that you're gonna cover in your book.
So a lot of it, and this is it's kind of like a process. So it starts with like the realization of that this isn't working. Society is telling us that we need to work all the time. It's not working, so now what? What do we do? So it's taking those steps, figuring out when to multitask, setting boundaries, knowing when to allocate. So there's a lot of, each chapter is another path that projects you forward to the end goal. And so it's actually pretty cool. It kind of goes in a progression, how to be consistent and flexible. Wow, those sound like opposites. I mean, they kind of are.
Yeah.
Consistency is important, but so is flexibility. And being able to balance that and not just like be mind blown completely by the concept. I think a lot of it is just trying to find the comfort level in making those changes and changing the mindset of I have to work all the time to be the best service provider, but being real and being authentic and taking care of yourself is the first step to making sure that you can serve people best.
Okay. So it's been said, I won't say by who because I always say by who, and he's always telling me, you said I said that, which he did. But so it has been said that I could be OCD about things. And I do believe I'm type A, but I'm also a creative. And so I have these nuances to me and my personality that I believe affect business. It affects how I maneuver in the business decisions that I make. And so I believe that that's something that's beneficial to me, though. When you said to be consistent and flexible, I think staying in that vein of I could be obsessive compulsive about, like you said, my financial details about my business. I have a few different businesses that I'm running. And so when people buy certain things, they fall under the same LLC. Sometimes I have two different LLCs for sure that bring in different incomes. And so they're like, oh, can I just send it to your Cash App? And I'm like, no. And they're looking like, but I got you. I'm like, well, yeah, this is my personal Cash App. And so
And
I
it's
can
going to
be,
take you forever to sort through.
yeah. And so on one side, I can be very like, no, let's be strict. And then on the other side, I'm like, butterflies. And I want to take a canvas out back and paint a tree. So I think it adds a dynamic, though, to where I'm able to be flexible in that what I did, because sometimes people don't hear you, like you said, boundaries and restrictions and things like that. I can say, hey, I have a business Cash App for that. And then I will wake up sometimes and people are like, hey, I Cash Apped you. I want a book. I'm like, they probably sent to my personal one. So I will immediately then go ahead and I already have a spreadsheet set up of what didn't go where it's supposed to. And so, but I had 12 years of tax experience. So I understand that. And so I'm very excited about two things. Your book, I'm getting it. You have to tell me when it's coming. I have to read it. I'm so excited about it. And two, I'm definitely excited about your program that's going to assist small businesses to be able to, learn those financial things that's necessary. I want everyone to succeed. That's the heart I have for business, for people in general. I want what you purpose or desire in your heart to do. I absolutely want you to fulfill it. But I do believe that we have to start allowing people to access. Like you said, a lot of business is not their fault. They're just uneducated. But that's because where do I find the education? Where do I go? And there's a lot of different entities that offer things, but sometimes it's for payment. And like we just said, a lot of expenses go into starting a business. You may not be able to handle that expense when you first start up. You may not be able to go to financial courses. Something I love about my city, I live in Anniston, Alabama, but something that they offered not too long ago was a finance course free to the public for small business owners or people who want to start a business. And it was very informative, a lot of education. I think it was about 11 courses, and they were just, staggered over a couple of weeks. And it was really, really nice. I didn't get to finish it because I had other things on my plate and I had to make a decision. But what I did attend was very, very good. And so I think the last question that I would like to ask, so I'm all about empowerment. Like I said, I love women. I love equipping them. What does financial empowerment mean to you? And how do you hope to be able to impact others through your elders?
I think the most important thing is that education element and getting outside of that mindset where I'm imagining that the CPAs that don't want to help educate their clients maybe don't, or like, oh, they don't need to know this because I'm just doing it. But it's a different kind of education. And that's what's really going to empower people is being able to feel confident. And that's the key. And it's weird because you can say, at face value, what is the goal of the course? Okay, it's to get business owners to understand and be able to apply their financials. But the real goal is to empower entrepreneurs to have the confidence to trust how they're doing and be able to use that decisions for growth.
That is awesome. I may even just take the program. I absolutely love it. I love all of it, but I'm a finance geek, so I love it.
Nothing wrong with that.
I think that most inwardly, that desire to have people be educated is probably also where my roots are really stemmed in. I
Yeah.
love for people to know for themselves. It's not that I don't want to help you. It's not that I want to assist you, but I want you to be confident in what I'm doing for you. And if
Yeah.
ever I can't do it, I want people to have something so that the next person that you may hire or that you go to for a consultation can't bamboozle you, can't get over on you. Because there are some
Yeah.
people, that offer services that don't really fulfill them, especially to small businesses. And they don't always have the capacity to lose income on something that doesn't deliver what they came
Right.
for. And so I absolutely think that the work that you're doing, I can't wait to promote the book. And I'm just excited for the financial future of small businesses. I believe that at some point small businesses took a loss a little bit just in our financial culture right
Yeah.
now. But I do believe they're making a comeback. I believe that people are beginning to empower themselves, like you said, and educate themselves and learn that you can be passionate if you want to own that hair store, if you want to do, nails, just whatever
Absolutely.
services you like. Just like with me, I just want people to be financial literate. So I'm honestly thinking about doing that program as a nonprofit because I want people to be able to afford it. And so I want to be able to offer it to people who can't find sources anywhere else. And so
Absolutely.
I definitely encourage and empower and just give all I can and try to equip people. And I believe that that's the same idea that you have with your business. And so tell us about your business. Tell us where we can find you, connect with you, and what services you offer.
Absolutely. So my main webpage is cowertroe.com, and that from that link you can go to either the CPA firm and learn about what we're doing there. But all of these financial literacy, no more 24/7, that's going to be under Cowart Roe Academy. And I wanted to keep it kind of separate because I don't want people to feel like they have to be a CPA client, because I really want to be able to reach as many entrepreneurs as possible. And if you have a CPA that's working for you and doing great, providing all these other services, and you just need that education element, I actually want to be able to partner with other accounting professionals to be able to, incorporate this as, something that can be beneficial for their clients too.
That is amazing. Networking and connections. I'm all for it. I will definitely link all of your information in the description of our episode. And so I just want to thank you for coming through, for popping in
Thank
on the
you.
Powerhouse on Purpose podcast. It has been a blessed conversation. All of the things that you've given, I know they'll be impactful to all those that listen. And I hope that your book becomes a bestseller. I think it will be very, very impactful.
My name is Catherine Roe, and I am a powerhouse.
That's a wrap. So good. Thanks for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to receive future notifications and to stay plugged in to the Powerhouse.